Now I am on page 120 in the textbook for circling back one, and now we're going to go ahead and start project 2, which is establishing the resources for the tasks. Now, one thing that I noticed when I saved the document to start entering my resources, I realized something was going on here, and I'm not sure if you have the same thing here. Something's going backwards. So I went back in and I was looking at it, and I noticed that my predecessors are out of order here. My dates are off a little bit. So I want to show you how to fix this in case this has happened to you, or in case you do need um, to fix it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click here in the date. And first of all, this is supposed to start on 5/20, which is a Monday. And I'm removing the link, okay, to start on May 20th, okay? And the reason that you might think here, well, this one's ending Friday and this starts Monday, well, don't forget that the work week a lot of time is identified Monday through Friday. So that's why this one is starting here on Monday. And this one's only one day, so it's going to go ahead and start on Monday and end on Monday. But I need to get in here and put my predecessor. So I double click on that, and I am going to identify my predecessor there, which is going to be defining the evaluation criteria. So I click into here, make sure I'm on my predecessors tab, and I'm going to look for defining evaluation criteria. Okay, that's the predecessor, number 4. And these are in alpha order, okay, and it is a finish to start, so one has to finish before the next one can start. So I'm going to say okay. Now, of course, I'm kind of still messed up here. I've got to get this fixed. So the next item is the draft RFP, and that one is 5 days, but of course it cannot start the same time, the same day that the identifying the evaluation team. So I've got to fix this to 5/21. So I'm going to click my date 5/21, and I'm going to move the task. Okay, it's asking me, it's like telling me something is happening here. I'm doing something with the link, and I've got to get this fixed. Okay, so now I have my 5/21 through 5/28, and remember, once again, you got to count the working days. Okay, so we're not including Saturday and Sunday for working days, but we need to fix the predecessor here. Okay, so I'm going to double click in the predecessor box, make sure I click here, and my predecessor for this one is going to be identifying the evaluation team. Okay, so I'm going to look for that. Okay, and it is a finish to start, and say okay. All right, and so now I'm almost fixed. I got one more area here to fix, which is my the reviewing the RFP, because it's showing that it's starting on 5/21, and it cannot start until drafting of the RFP is finished. Okay, so let's fix this one, and this one is going to start on the 29th. Okay, and we're going to move this task as well. All right, and then we just need to fix our predecessor. Here we have 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this one will be 7. So double click in the predecessors box, and our predecessor to this one is drafting the RFP. All right, so we're going to just click on the RFP and say okay. All right, now we are fixed, and we are still coming out with the correct project end date of June the 12th. We still had the correct project end date, even though we had a couple of tasks out of order there. We still were ending up with the same ending date, but we just want to be careful that we have these predecessors in order, and these starting and finish dates correct. Okay, so now that I've fixed this, I did name this the Halloran RFP Bank Software Resources, and this is the Circling Back 1 project 2. And this is where we're going to go ahead and add our resources in for, we're assigning them to these tasks, okay, for our project. So I'm going to click on the View tab and select Resource Sheet. Of course, you could always come over here into your task views, and you could always click this little down arrow, and if you don't see Resource Sheet, just say more views, and you come down. There's a lot of different ways of doing this, and there we have our resource sheet, or you could just come into View and click on Resource Sheet. Either one of those works. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and start adding these in, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the first one, and I am going to go ahead and put the video on pause as I add all these in, because there are several in here to add in. But we want to be careful when we're adding our resources. Make sure that we have our types in here. Remember the types again. We have work resources, which are normally people that are assigned to a task, or it could possibly be a machine or something that we're renting for a week, or something like that. Material resources are assigned in units such as gallons, maybe consulting session, yards, tons. Those are material resources that we did a few lessons back. And cost resources are items such as travel. That is never the same, because depends on, like, if you're traveling, say, from Miami to New York, could be one price, but then if you go Miami to Los Angeles, it's usually more expensive, but you still consider that travel. So that is where you use that as a cost resource. And the same thing with, like, food. If you're providing food for a conference, it may cost $100 one day, and then the next time you order food, it could possibly be $150. So that's why travel and food are always considered a cost resource instead of a material resource. Okay, so Saeed is going to be a work resource, and his initials are going to be here, SA. Oops, I double clicked on that, but you can just click once in there, and his initials will be SA. The group, we don't have any groups created in here yet, so you're going to go ahead and type that in there. Once you've created it once, it should pop up the next time you need to use it. His max units are going to be at 100%. Now, he does not get an hourly rate. He is on a salary, weekly, okay? So we need to change this here. And if you go in here, I'm going to put in $2,000. Let's get all that other stuff out of there. If I type in $2,000 a week and try to enter that, watch what happens. It says, this is not a valid rate value for work resources. Type the rate amount and a slash and the abbreviation for the time period, okay? So example, you would do 10/H for hours, or we're going to do, in this case, I'm going to do $2,000 slash W, and that should pick up our $2,000 a week. And to open these columns up, you just get the double-headed arrow and left click and drag, and then you can open up those columns, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and put the video on pause, and I'm going to go ahead and populate the rest of the resources into the resource sheet. So now I have added in all my resources to my resource sheet. And you want to be really careful when you are putting in resources and making sure that you are assigning the correct type, and also make sure you get them under the correct group, their maximum number of units, their standard rates, because this will affect the whole project schedule with the budget and everything if you have not correctly entered the correct salaries or the hourly working rate, or whatever the case may be. So it's really important when you're putting in resources in a schedule that you take your time and you go back and double check everything once you're done. As you started typing in groups, you'll notice once you had CL management in there, the next time you type CL, the management was popping up. But then we have some people down here that are just from CL. So you have to make sure that the management part did not pop up. Same thing with IT management. Make sure that the IT management didn't pop up when you had the IT guys here or gals. Okay, so you have to double check and make sure that these are correct. And then our digital projectors are actually from the equipment group. Large and small conference room come from location. And then that food and travel, of course, those are cost resources, because those are, once again, a variable cost every time that we assign it. So those are considered cost resources and not work resources. Okay. And right now we don't have any material resources such as copy paper, pens, things like that. We don't have any material resources in here. The other thing that you want to be real careful about is notice that Andrew Dixon and Nicole Holiday are only assigned 50% units. So that means that they are only available for 50% of this project. So there's a possibility that they are working another 50% on another project somewhere, or possibly 25% on two other projects. So they are only available to us in this project 50% of their time. Okay. And then you'll notice down here, when it comes to the CL user group, we're assigning 600%. And you're going to see that going forward. But what happens in a case like that is the group may consist of 6 people. And each one of those persons contributes 100%. So when you're using that CL user group, you're going to have 600% of the people, or 6 people 100% of the time. So that's why when you're assigning that work group, you're going to get those 6 people. Now, that work group costs $100 an hour. That is for the 6 people, okay? And you're going to be seeing how that comes into play later on in some of the projects going forward, okay? And then here for the digital projector, you'll notice that's 200%. So they're probably going to use 2 of the projectors, and that's why it's coming out to 200%. Down here in the large conference room, 400%. There's probably 4 large conference rooms that they're going to utilize, and then looks like there's only one small conference room that they're going to utilize. So now that we have all these costs in, like I say, once again, just go back and double check, make sure that you have everybody listed under the correct group with their maximum allowed units to work on the project. Also, our standard, make sure your rates are in correctly. You have people either scheduled by the week or by the hour. Okay, so double check those before we go forward to project 3. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then we will finish out with part 3 or project 3 of this circling back exercise.